Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling with My Sanity. I'm your host, Austin, and today we are going to be reviewing the very first ever Raw on Netflix. So, I actually caught the replay very late last night. Coming off of Peacock, this is something super nice that we can do right away now, because I know a lot of times they didn't have the replay available right away after the show. So, I got off of work pretty late last night, came home, watched everything. Um, that's a lie. I actually watched the first half hour at work. I took my break like right at 8 o'clock when it started, so caught the first little bit. But you know how the first half hour to like 40 minutes of WWE shows tend to go. It tends to be a lot of pyro, a lot of talking, and not a lot of action. So I saw the Triple H entrance, which was awesome, and I saw most of The Rock's promo, and I saw the very beginning of Solo Sikoa's entrance. But outside of that, I watched when I got home, and I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, it looked great. The Intuit Dome was awesome. So we'll kind of just dive right into it. We'll go segment by segment here and review this thing. The very first thing, as I said, was Triple H was in the ring. They did a nice little WWE montage at the beginning, showing kind of throughout the years what's happened on Monday Night Raw. And once the curtain dropped, Triple H was in the ring, cut a nice little promo talking about blah, blah, blah. Are you ready? His normal gimmick there. And The Rock came out. And The Rock's entrance, still very badass, still awesome. Kind of reminds me of Black Adam a bit. The only thing I didn't like about this was he clearly was just there to be a hype man for Raw and Netflix. He was dressed like the final boss, had the glasses on, had his little vest on, showing his muscles, but he didn't act like a heel at all, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, he kind of came out and just gave Cody a hug, hugged all his family members at ringside, talked about Roman Reigns a little bit, and then hyped up Raw on Netflix pretty much. So, didn't love that. I kind of thought we were going to get something else with him later on in the show when he popped back up, but it was what it was. I mean, I understand that he's on the board of directors now, and he has to come out and kind of do these things, hype up the show, and at the end of the day, it's still Dwayne the Rock Johnson. So I get why they wanted to put him out there. So after that, we go right into Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa in the Tribal Combat match. We did have Paul Heyman at ringside, like he said he would be. He was going to be the one to join either guy, whoever ended up coming out on top. Um, I thought this was a hell of a match, to be honest. It got quite a bit of good time. Um, Solo was kind of wailing on Roman for a while, which I liked. I didn't know how they were going to play this off, but Solo got some good offense in. Um, they were on the commentary desk for a minute. Solo hit him with one of the monitors, I believe it was. Hit him with a Samoan spike, had a kick out. Roman had a couple kick outs where I was like, God damn. I'm like, I can't believe he kicked out of that. But then again, it's Roman Reigns. I mean, the guy had a fucking, what was it, 1,200-day title reign. So it is to be expected with him. Very good match, though. I really like the spot where they had the table set up and Roman kind of like struggled for a bit with Solo in the corner, picked him up, hoisted him up for the power bomb, and then put him straight through that table. That was pretty sweet. And um, the end of the match, there was a lot of interference. I mean, the bloodline came down as per usual. You had Tamatonga run down. You had Jacob Fatu come down. Then after they wailed on Roman for a bit, you had Sami Zayn come out with Jimmy Uso. Then after them, you had Kevin Owens show up, which I thought was pretty funny, beating on Roman Reigns, which makes sense after everything he's talked about over the last, what has it been, month and a half since he's turned heel. He started beating the shit out of Roman Reigns. Then Cody Rhodes came down. And then I was fully expecting The Rock to come down, which he did after the match ended, but I was fully expecting The Rock to come down and kind of wail on Cody a bit. But Roman kind of got back into the thing. They had a little back and forth. Roman hit a spear, pinned Solo for the 1-2-3. He now has the Ulafala back. And then The Rock comes out and bestows the Ulafala on him. And man, it would have been a time for not a turn, but for The Rock to take out Roman there, I thought, because the camera angles they were doing after he was posing, doing the ones to the air. They had a couple cuts where The Rock was in the corner and you couldn't see him, and I really thought he was going to come out and just blast Roman Reigns. So I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. But overall, I mean, the match was damn good. Pay-per-view quality match, I thought, there between those two. And honestly, I wasn't expecting much out of this match. I was expecting more out of the Punk and Rollins match, but this match might have been, I think, my favorite match of the night, to be honest with you. So very well done by both of those guys, and hell of a match. I'm interested to see where it goes moving forward, whether The Rock's going to actually be available for WrestleMania season or not. But hell of a match. Favorite match of the night, in my opinion. After this, we had John Cena coming out, and this was very, very good. This was the segment of the night, I thought, outside of the very first match. Punk and Rollins was good too, but we'll get to that when the time comes. But Cena kind of came out, talked about his losing streak, how he's been on this 2,300 something day losing streak or whatever it's been. Was kind of running himself down a bit. He's like, guys, he's like, I can't just hop back in the main event scene. I can't do this. I can't do that. He's like, but what I can do, he's like, what if I could go on to win the Royal Rumble? He's like, there is the Elimination Chamber, the Money in the Bank. Then he finally comes to the, you know what? He's like, I could win the Royal Rumble. He's like, I can't. You can't win if you don't play, is what he said basically. And the crowd started. You could tell the crowd started getting behind him on this. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm going to go into the Royal Rumble. He's like, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. He's like, and then I'm going to go on to make history at WrestleMania, which I expected the first like 70% of John Cena's promo. I did not expect him to be mentioning the 17th world title so much, just because I know Cena, obviously, some people may disagree with this, but I don't think he's a super selfish guy. I mean, he had the Super Cena phase, but a lot of that was Vince McMahon just booking him to the moon, kind of like he did with Roman Reigns for a while. Um, I genuinely did not think he wanted to break Ric Flair's record just because he had so much respect for Rick, but I think he needs to. I mean, when you have history on the table like this, unless they want to go on in the next like 4 years before Randy Orton retires and give him another, what is it, four title reigns, five title reigns to break the record, Cena's your guy, and you have it right in front of you. So I think it's a hell of a story for him to come in and talk about winning the Royal Rumble. If he doesn't win the Rumble, maybe he wins the Elimination Chamber, kind of like Punk did a little bit ago. Like, what was it? When he first returned, I think it was. He had the Royal Rumble and obviously lost it to Cody back-to-back years. But you could do some trials and tribulations kind of thing where maybe he doesn't win the first one but wins the next one. Maybe he loses both and wins Money in the Bank. Then that's his cash in. Or maybe he loses them all somehow and then it overcomes some kind of odds to where he gets into that main event match. And if tonight's any indication, I don't know if The Rock's gonna be wrestling at WrestleMania. I think he'll be there because it is Las Vegas. I think he'll do something, but as of right now, I don't know if The Rock's gonna be wrestling at WrestleMania. So maybe if Cody Rhodes is on the table, maybe you do the Cody Rhodes versus John Cena match, and John Cena takes the belt from Cody Rhodes. I think that would be a hell of a story. I mean, Cody Rhodes has been a very good champion, and I love Cody Rhodes, but John Cena doesn't need to hold the belt long. You could have Cena have the belt for a month, month and a half, and then drop it back. But it would just be a hell of a story and a hell of a main event at WrestleMania. I think you could do that as your main event for night two, and for night one, I think you give it maybe to Punk and Rollins, two guys that have really never had that big main event at WrestleMania, but have said verbally in interviews and such in the past that they would love to main event WrestleMania. Maybe those are your two main events. I would love to see John Cena get his 17th. I've been a huge fan since I was a kid. Um, and I think Cody Rhodes, he could still get a damn good match out of John Cena at this point in his career. It's not like Cena's in his mid 50s or 60s like Sting was before he retired at AEW. The guy's 48 years old. He could still go. I mean, he has a little bit left in the tank, and he's going to be one of those guys that retires with a little bit left in the tank. He's not going to be emptying the tank and going out when he absolutely can't move, like a Hulk Hogan or a Ric Flair kind of thing. So, hell of a segment there. Got me hyped at the end. John Cena enters the Royal Rumble, and we will see where that goes less than a month from now. Also, speaking of, I did see in the interviews real quick. I guess Cena will not be coming back. I was fully expecting him on like all these Raws for some reason, but I guess he has 36 more dates announced for the year. I don't think he's going to be back on television until the Royal Rumble, so I'm hoping to God I'm going to the Raw right after the Royal Rumble in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm hoping he's going to be there because I really want to see Cena for the last time. I thought he was going to be on most of these Monday Night Raws moving forward, so I'm hoping after the Rumble he's at pretty much every one because if you're doing a farewell tour, at least let people come see you. You know what I mean? If you're going to be on Monday Night Raws, like people want to go out and see John Cena. perform or talk one last time. So hopefully he's going to be there when I go. Um, After the Cena segment announcing himself for the Royal Rumble, we had the Women's World Championship match. Thought this was another really solid match. I thought this was a little bit quick. I thought it could have gone another 5 minutes or so, maybe, but there was some good stuff in here. Obviously, my girl Liv Morgan lost the title, which I was kind of bummed about, but I love Rhea Ripley. Rhea's a superstar. Liv was never supposed to have this title in the first place. I mean, the only reason they gave it to Liv was because Rhea got hurt in that backstage segment months ago with Liv, and then Liv kind of took off in her new heel gimmick. So I'm excited to see where they go with Rhea now. I think this feud is finally done. I mean, she hit her with a couple riptides, 2 at the very end to pin her. I think 3 overall. She hit her with 1. She kicked out. Then Rhea actually kicked out of the Oblivion, which was wild. That usually never happens. And then she hit her with 2 big riptides at the end. And then afterwards, Dominic comes in, tries to play it off. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "Give me a hug." And Rhea opens her arms for a minute and just absolutely nut shots him. So that was a cool moment. Then Undertaker came out, um, did his little thing with his motorcycle. I fucking hate the American Badass gimmick, man. I mean, just come out with the gong at the beginning and do your gimmick. I don't like how they do the double gimmick where he comes out with the gong, and then the lights go out, and then he comes out on that damn motorcycle, and he can barely get down the ramp half the time. Um, I mean, when people want to see the Undertaker, we want to see the dead man. We don't want to see the fucking old man riding his Harley motorcycle. So, just my opinion, but didn't love that. But anyways, he took one lap around the ring, came up with Rhea, celebrated for a minute, and kind of spoke a few words of encouragement to her. Did the pose, which I thought was cool, and then they both kind of rode off into the sunset there. Um, I love these little segments with legends, the way Triple H uses them. Vince would bring them in and then seem to book legends like Goldberg and other people over the young talent, which I could not stand. But I like how Triple H utilizes the legends. He's respectful to them while also realizing he's like, hey, we're not going to bring a guy like Undertaker. We're not going to bring me and Shawn Michaels back in the ring, and we're not going to get over a guy like a Gunther or something. We're supposed to be building these young stars up to be the next big badasses of the company. We're not going to shit on them. So I like the way he uses the legends in these little different capacities. After the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley match, which I thought was good, was Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. I'm going to be honest with this one, guys. I didn't really give a fuck about this. This felt very much like a random Raw episode to me. We've seen Drew versus Jey how many times now? Um, I watched the entrances and like paid a little bit of attention to the matches, but I'm like it. It was kind of quick. Jay won by roll up. Match was fine. Wasn't bad. Wasn't good. The entrance was kind of funny because Jay Uso had Travis Scott there, so that was interesting to see what they were doing with that stuff. Drew, I kind of sat in for a second. I was wondering if they were going to use his old entrance theme. Didn't pull that out again. Maybe they're going to use that for WrestleMania down the line. But yeah, very forgettable match there, in my opinion. Then we moved into the Hulk Hogan segment, which I want to talk about for a minute. Um, an absolute legend. I get why people don't like him. He's had some wild shit, done some wild shit, politics aside, but I just don't know why they keep trotting Hulk Hogan out here in 2025. I mean, guy's done a lot for the business, but every time he goes out there, his reaction just gets worse and worse. I mean, he was getting audibly booed out there. And that's one good thing about Netflix. When The Rock cussed a little bit, you could hear Solo yapping at Roman Reigns. They're not bleeping out the fan reactions anymore. There was a big "fu Solo" chant going on at one point in the first match of the night. I don't know what we're doing with Hulk Hogan. I mean, nobody wants to see Hulk Hogan in 2025. The guy's washed up. He's not like The Rock and Stone Cold, where he shows up so infrequently that it's a big deal. And granted, The Rock and Stone Cold are quite a bit younger than Hulk Hogan still, but the guy could barely walk up the ramp. He's got Jimmy Hart there running, waving the American flag. It just doesn't have the same gimmick that it used to. And Hulk Hogan very much only relies on the "let me tell you something, brother," and he's gassing everybody up. He's like, "Ah, we got tens of thousands of Hulkamaniacs here in the Intuit Dome." And it's the same shtick over and over and over and over. I mean, if he showed up once every 5 years or once every 3 years, it would be something different. But it's like, man, it's so gimmicky and so cringy, and he doesn't have the staying appeal right now that a Stone Cold or somebody like that does, where they can show up. And no matter what he does, he could be in the worst segment of the night. People are still going to lose their minds when the glass shatters. It's like, let's respect Paul for what he did. Let's acknowledge that you had him in the intro and everything at the beginning of the show. We don't need Hulk Hogan on our WWE shows in 2025, and hopefully this is kind of the nail in that coffin. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, moving from that awful Hulk Hogan segment to by the way, real quick going back to the Hulk Hogan segment, he was there basically to plug his beer, which nobody gives a fuck about your American-made beer or whatever the hell it was called. So, just a very stupid segment overall. He was just there. Hulk Hogan's very much a politicker, where he's just there to get himself over. So, enough of that. Let's move on to the main event: CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, which I thought was a very good match. I'll be honest, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Then again, they didn't get the time that I thought they were going to get. I thought they were going to get another 10 minutes or so to this match. But still, I think it was my second favorite match of the night. Tied for second with the Liv and Rhea. I liked the Liv and Rhea match quite a bit. But very good match. They brawled quite a bit. I liked the ending a lot. The shots during this match were pretty cool. I did not expect the outcome with Seth Rollins losing. I thought he was going to go over Punk because Punk's kind of bulletproof at this point. I mean, I thought Punk could eat a loss to Seth Rollins if he ate a couple curb stomps and then come back on Raw and still be completely fine. I think it hurts Seth a little more than it hurts CM Punk, but I don't hate the outcome either way. I mean, I love both guys. So, and this is not the end of this. CM Punk kind of talked about it in his post pay per view interview, but this is not the end of him versus Seth Rollins. I think this will go on to be a trilogy or something like that, where it ends at WrestleMania kind of deal. Maybe they fight at the Royal Rumble. I don't think both those guys are going to be in the Rumble, so maybe they fight it out at the Rumble again, and then they have a blow off match at WrestleMania where they're tied 1-1 and somebody goes over in the third match. So, but overall, thought it was a very, very good match. Seth was kind of bleeding a little bit at the end. They both hit each other's finishers at one point. I think Seth actually hit two GTSs to Punk, if I remember right. That Punk hit a pretty shitty looking curb stomp at one point in the match. And then they had a little back and forth at the very end. And Seth did come out on the losing end. CM Punk won. And after that, that was the very end of the show. So I'm curious to see what everybody thought. I know some people online were a little disappointed. I thought it was a very good show. Um, a lot of people thought they catered to new fans a lot, but I kind of think that's the point, guys. You're moving to Netflix. You have a worldwide audience now where 70 some odd percent of the globe has Netflix that has television sets in their household. So I think this was very much a show to be like, hey, let's show them the pageantry. Let's show them this sweet new arena with all these lasers and drone shows going on outside. Let's show them our biggest superstars. Let's show them some legends from the past in The Rock and Hulk Hogan and freaking Triple H at the beginning of the show. A lot of pyro. The announcing I thought was great with Pat McAfee and Michael Cole, as always. Pat McAfee's hilarious. His little back and forth with Dom during the Liv and Rhea match, I thought was fantastic stuff. So that was very interesting. But yeah, I didn't expect this to be a regular episode of Monday Night Raw. If they threw out a regular episode of Raw with your typical matches that they recycle through, it wasn't going to have the pageantry and the new feeling of a different show. So I enjoyed this show. It wasn't as good as it could have been, but I thought for the most part everything hit besides the Hulk Hogan segment and some of the odd stuff with The Rock kind of being more babyface than heel. But I thought overall it was a hell of a show. I mean, it's what I wanted it to be. There were some sweet moments. The John Cena promo got me really hyped at the end where he's like, we're going to go on to win the Royal Rumble. And the Seth and Punk match was a good starting point. I hope both guys came out of that completely healthy because we know both guys over the last few years have had a pretty good injury history. So hoping both guys go into the Rumble healthy and we can kind of get on this road to WrestleMania and hit this going at a good speed here because we got all the big shows coming up, guys. We got Royal Rumble in less than a month. Right after that, the Elimination Chamber in Toronto, Canada. Then shortly after that, we had the Money in the Bank and then WrestleMania already in April. So we'll see how that goes. We didn't get any returns tonight. Um, One thing I will mention before we hop off here, we did finally get the full Penta reveal. So we got the rest of his mask revealed on a little teaser screen with the word Penta. So Penta is probably going to be taking on Chad Gable next week, which will be interesting. Didn't get any returns as far as Alexa Bliss or Becky Lynch. I know Becky Lynch was talked about a bit. So we'll see when those superstars come back. I know even Charlotte Flair was floated around a bit. So look in the next maybe month or so to see a few returns before the WrestleMania season, because I imagine some of these women, some of these main event women, should I say, are going to be factored pretty big into WrestleMania plans this year. At least I hope they will be. So, but yeah, overall, guys, I thought it was a damn good show. I don't think it was perfect. I give it like an 8 out of 10. Um, I thought almost all the matches delivered. I thought it was paced very well. The segments kind of flowed smoothly together. The Triple H is very good about not overloading shows, so I thought they had their handful of matches, they had their handful of promos and segments kind of penciled in beforehand there, and I thought everything shaped out to be a pretty damn good show. And next week is going to be when we really get into this and kind of see what Raw on Netflix is going to be for us fans who watch every week. So next week will be more of a normal Raw. I think there's still going to be some pageantry there. They're going to be hyping this up for a few months that Raw on Netflix, it's a big deal, blah, blah, blah. But we will see them revert to more of the normal show, and we're going to get back to more storyline stuff for next week. So I am looking forward to that, and I'll be here to cover it with you guys. I don't know if I'm going to do SmackDown this week because I do have some plans over the weekend. We'll see if anything big comes out of that show. Maybe I'll touch on some stuff on Saturday morning with you guys and see what's up. But we'll definitely be covering a lot here in the coming weeks with the new Raws that are coming out on Netflix. We'll be talking about Saturday night's main event when the time comes here that comes up before the Royal Rumble. And then we'll be covering everything Royal Rumble. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode of Wrestling with My Sanity. Logging off is Austin.